This week on the Unabated podcast, Derek Carty of EVAnalytics joins the show to talk about attacking baseball props all season long.
Unabated. That's the new word, unabated.
Hello, everyone, and welcome on into the Unabated podcast, brought to you by Bet 105. I'm Thomas Viola, and joining me, as always, Mr. Unabated himself, Captain Jack Andrews. Jack, how was your weekend one of March Madness here?
I am still alive in my survivor pools, but a lot of people are because favorites have done very well. I'm looking into the Sweet 16 and going, I'm going to have to make my move. What number one seed am I going against here? Because everyone's going to be picking those one seeds. So, yeah, I'm a little stressed over survivor pools. Betting wise, did okay. Didn't have a ton of action out there. It went as expected though. It's kind of been a boring tournament. How about you?
My survivor pool made it through the first round nice and easy, and then completely forgot I was in it and didn't put a pick in, and it locked at the start of the first game instead of the start of any game. And yeah, not great, but hey, it happens. It was not a big survivor pool, so I'm not too stressed out about it. I donated a little bit to Tim Lawson in the Better Life spot there. I'll live with that. My brackets are doing great. Shout out to Jason Liskin, Pool Genius. 98% on ESPN. I've got it set up at this point. If Duke wins, I'm probably winning multiple cash bracket contests. So I'm feeling nice about that future. Had a bad beat on Colorado State from a Calcutta pool. If they had beaten Maryland, that buzzer beater killed me, but I ended up breaking even on my Calcuttas, so I'm happy with that. Baptized day one on props. Been able to battle back, but that was the worst day of betting. Really one of the worst days I've ever had in general in life was Thursday of March Madness. I went 5-31 on my props, a negative 66.6%, absolute cursed ROI, and then proceeded to go to my soccer game that night. We get baptized 11-1, and our one was me throwing a ball into the other goal. It's indoor. You can do that at the very end of the game. And then my second game, sprained my ankle. Phenomenal day all around. But all of that doesn't matter because there's a new sports book in town, Jack. And before we get to our show here for baseball, I just have to say, have you seen that you can now bet on sports for Jersey Mike's rewards points?
You can what now on a Jersey Mike's app? What is this?
Jersey Mike's is now doing like sports predictions where you can go and you can pick sides and totals and stuff and bet like their rewards points for it. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Do you risk reward points you have, or do you get reward points if you're right?
I don't know, but I can tell you I'm downloading the app today and finding out because I really want to start gambling with short points here.
I'm not a fan of Jersey Mike subs, but yeah, that's an interesting wrinkle. We'll see where that goes. We'll see if this becomes the new sweepstakes betting.
I think we're going to need an unabated line. We're going to need to get the Jersey Mike's app on the screen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enough about that. Enough about March Madness here. Chalky tournament. We're headed into week 2. We'll see what happens there, but it's also baseball time. And today's guest, we've got Derek Carty on. He's going to be talking all about the Bat X and how to attack baseball props this year. I mean, you want to talk about the gold standard. It is Derek. I love doing the football show that we do with him. I'm excited for baseball season with him. And for me to say I'm excited about baseball season really means a lot. This is going to be a great show here. Very interested to hear his thoughts on a lot of stuff going into this season.
Yeah, look, Derek is proven. He's been at this a long time, and we have him on each year. We have him on weekly on a show because we believe he's a great source for projections in baseball. He's also got a great way of explaining things, very calm demeanor. He's just a guy that you trust. And that's why I like our association with him and EVAnalytics. I trust them. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to what he's going to talk about here with the season coming up.
Yeah, he walks the walk and he talks the talk. He's such a great guy. Very excited for this show. I think we should bring him on. But first, here's a word from our sponsor. The Unabated podcast is sponsored by Bet 105. Looking for a sports book that puts you first? Bet 105 delivers with minus 105 odds on most markets. Better pricing, bigger profits. No limits on winners means they won't ban you for being good, and you can enjoy fast crypto payouts with instant withdrawals and no hassle. Transparent limits let you know exactly what you can bet with no guesswork. Backed by respected bettors and recognized by top pros, Bet 105 is the sharp, friendly book you can trust. Join the community where winning is welcome. Use the promo code Unabated and get a $50 bonus bet when you deposit your first $100 today. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome on into the show, the creator of the Bat X from EVAnalytics, Derek Carty. Derek, thank you so much for joining us here today. We are on the cusp of another great baseball season, and I know you're excited.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thanks so much for having me on. Baseball season's the best. We don't have games for another couple days, but I'm getting like flooded with questions, like people asking, how the bat works, or, people have used it before, like when certain features are going to be live for opening day. And just, it's such a fun time of year. I'm so excited.
It really is, and I'm excited too, especially because we are going to get to do a show together every week. Just like last season, we're bringing back the Bat Prop Show. You're going to be able to find it right here on our YouTube channel, Unabated Live, youtube.com/Unabated Live. Also, it's where you're watching this if you're watching our video. If you're not, you can check the description in the link. Go subscribe. You'll be all ready for opening day. But before we get started here with that, Derek, for those that might not know who you are or what it is that you do, give them a little bit of background about you and the Bat X before we get started here.
Yeah, no, I've been in the sports analytics industry for close to 20 years now. I've worked with a lot of really smart people a lot of which are now working for or making decisions for major league teams. I built the Bat X projection system, which is really good. It's been found to be the most accurate projection system in fantasy baseball for the past 5 years. It's obviously been great for betting. I keep a bet tracking sheet. You can see every bet that I've put out publicly. You can talk to subscribers. It works. It accounts for just about every factor you can try to think of. Accounts for a lot of different contexts on a daily basis, what's on the field, the opposing pitchers, the bullpen, the exact defensive alignment, the umpire, the weather, the catcher pitch framing, like whatever you can think of. It accounts for so many different things, and it's been really good.
So the Bat X is actually a blend of both traditional statistics as well as StatCast data. Can you tell us a little bit more about what led you to want to blend those two? And then I've got a second follow-up question for you when you get done that.
Sure. So I created the Bat originally, which this was, I don't know, close to 15 years ago now, I think. There was nothing like StatCast available at the time, so it just used kind of traditional stats that we had access to. Which still does really well, and those stats do have a lot of value. But once StatCast started releasing, fun stuff like exit velocity and launch angle and sprint speed and that kind of stuff, I was like, well, this is obviously going to make projections more accurate. I need to roll this in. And so basically what I found once I started studying the new data was that you're going to optimize accuracy basically by combining the two approaches. Neither one alone is going to get you there. They both offer unique insight, and when you put them together, you get something really good.
And for those that might be a little uninitiated, real quick, what is StatCast?
Oh, StatCast is basically like MLB's advanced technology, where they have cameras and sensors and all kinds of stuff within the ballparks. And they track just about everything you can ask for now, where they will measure exactly, exit velocity is how hard the ball comes off the bat. Launch angle is the exact angle relative to the ground that the ball, travels. Is it, a really low angle where it's like a ground ball, or a really high angle where it's a fly ball or a pop up? It measures all that stuff exactly, in addition to a whole bunch of other cool stuff.
So, okay, what are some stats that are predictive, whether they be traditional stats or some of these new StatCast statistics? What are some that you have found to have predictive qualities?
Yeah, talking about just traditional stats, there's plenty of traditional stats that are, quote unquote predictive or sticky. If you look at a hitter or a pitcher, I guess a hitter too, a pitcher's strikeout rate, a pitcher's walk rate, a pitcher's ground ball rate, like this has been known in sabermetric circles and even kind of public circles for a long time now, that this stuff is really good at predicting future performance. If you're trying to predict a pitcher's ERA in the future, you don't want to use his past ERA. You want to use things that are much less noisy, much less influenced by random chance or by things outside of his control. And so if you focus on things like strikeouts, walks, ground balls, that makes a huge difference. Obviously, the StatCast stuff winds up being, pretty sticky and predictive too. The launch angles, the exit velocities. Last year they put out bat speed and like swing length and all kinds of other stuff, which is not in the Bat X yet, but it will be at some point. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's so much data to work with now with baseball.
It really is crazy, like the amount of stuff that they have available for it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun being able to work with it and constantly seeing all the new stuff they're putting out.
Yeah. So baseball is also it's a little bit different for people who maybe joined us in Unabated and we're betting NBA or we're betting or are used to the more news-based approach that is involved in betting basketball. Baseball, not quite so much the same thing. When is the best time to be hitting baseball props? Is it right before games? Are you waiting for pitcher lineups and pitchers and batting orders to be announced, or is this something you can really attack in the mornings?
So I don't think there's a one size fits all answer. Generally speaking, earlier is going to be better because you're going to get in before the lines move. And if you're using the Bat X, you will see very quickly that the lines will move towards the Bat X number throughout the day, and you will get much less value right before first pitch than you will in the morning. That being said, there are still some things that you do want to be aware of. So, like if you're betting, you know, the night before and you're looking at the Bat X projections, the projected lineup that the bat is using is not going to be as accurate as the projected lineup it uses the next morning. Also, every morning I'll go in and I will manually check the pitch counts for every pitcher to make sure that they're projected to go, you know, what I think a reasonable number is. Volume is, people don't think about it as like a big thing in baseball, but it is. If a pitcher's pitch count is off, all of his stats are going to be off. And so you want to make sure that you have a good sense of how deep he's going to go into the game. And so after I kind of manually go in, I confirm everyone's pitch count looks good or change any that need to. After that, the projections will get a little bit more stable. Of course, you have to wait for me to do that, and lines do move in the interim, so it's kind of a trade-off. Um, Certain things too, like if you're doing batter props, um, some guys, you know, days maybe they'll hit second in the batting order, and the next day they'll hit eighth or something like that. So guys like that, you maybe want to wait until the batting order comes out because the value can shift dramatically if he's projected to hit second and he's not. You know, what could look like a really good bet winds up actually being a theoretical negative EV bet. Um, but guys who are, you know, stars, you know, guys who are going to hit in the same spot in the order every day, the guy's going to hit cleanup for the Yankees or whatever. Like Aaron Judge is never going to hit ninth in the order. Like you can bet an Aaron Judge prop much earlier in the day than you might DJ LeMahieu or something like that.
Now, when it comes, you mentioned the starting pitchers and their pitch counts. How big a deal are starting pitchers now? It used to be with any side or total, you could make sure that listed pitchers for action. We've kind of gone away from that. Is it because the bullpens are coming in earlier? Pitchers are on a much more strict pitch count. They're not pitching as deep as they were. The impact is lessened, right?
It's lessened, but who's starting still makes a huge difference in
Mhm.
game lines. If you don't know who the pitcher's going to be, you probably want to hold off. Um, Teams are using their starting pitchers much less than they have in the past, just because they've realized that the optimal way to prevent runs is by not leaving their pitchers in too long. Um, Teams are using more and more every year the opener, where you'll have a guy just come in for the first inning or couple innings, and then he'll come out and someone else will come in. So yeah, you do want to make sure that you're accounting for all that. The Bat X will be. That does open up some opportunities for us. Like occasionally a sports book might treat an opener as like a real starter, and a guy who's only going to pitch an inning will have, you know, a 4.5 strikeout K prop or something. And it's like, nope, I will definitely bet the under on that one. That kind of thing. So there are opportunities that open up because of kind of this weird way teams are managing their pitchings now.
Derek, one of the cool things about sports betting these days is there's always people that are coming into it new. So there are going to be people that are betting to win, and this is the first year that they're betting into baseball. Maybe this is the first year they're trying your product or trying to beat baseball props. What would be your advice to someone who's getting into betting baseball for the first time this year?
I think the biggest piece of advice I would give someone, aside from making sure you're using a really good projection system. I'm biased. I recommend the Bat X, but you have to be using something. If you're just trying to use your baseball knowledge, you're going to get destroyed. Um, but the biggest piece of advice beyond that, I would say, is just go in with realistic expectations. Baseball is a grind. Baseball has a lot of randomness, a lot of variance. Anything can happen over a single day. Uh, in baseball, you are not approaching it as a, I think this is going to be a good bet today kind of thing. And, you judge your results based on what happened that day. I mean, it's the truth with all of betting, but especially with baseball, you have to view it as a long-term thing because you are going to go through swings where you're winning like all your bets, and then you're going to go through a swing where you're losing like all your bets. And that's just how it works. And you have to be prepared for that. And you have to be able to kind of have the right mentality to weather, especially the bad swings. I think it was last year, or the year before. I went into the end of May before I was in the positive, for bets I was making. Like that's a long time to be losing bets, and it wound up being a great year. It's just that's the nature of baseball, and you have to be prepared for that kind of possibility.
Let's dig into that volatility a little bit because this is the thing that I feel new bettors and even some seasoned bettors just don't grasp, and that is different bets have different volatility. I'll let you kind of pick this apart for us, but give us an example of some bets that you feel are of the lower variance and some that there's going to be a high variance in these type of bets.
Yeah, so I do want to just add the caveat that even, quote unquote low variance props or bets are still really high variance for baseball, but there are varying degrees of it, like you said. So generally any prop where you're getting close to a 50-50 proposition on it, pretty much any pitcher prop, pitcher strikeouts, pitcher, walks, hits, your true probability and the odds implied are going to be somewhere around 50%, maybe 40, maybe 60. Um, but if you look at something like batter home runs, like the chance of some batters hitting a home run might only be 5% or 10% that day. And so you're not expecting to win all your bets, or you're expecting to lose most of them. But what you want to do is, if you're attacking a market like that is extremely volatile, is just to consider volume your friend. The more of them you bet, assuming you have a plus EV process, the closer you're going to get to realizing your projected expected value, and the more profitable you're going to be long term than if you're just betting, one a day or something, where really even one a day over a whole season, you're still looking at a really tiny sample.
Yeah, if you're someone who's coming into this for their first baseball season and maybe you're just coming out of NBA right now, well, you're still doing NBA, but you know what I'm saying. Um, it's a very, very different game. You've got basketball where you've got so many possessions per game, and you're looking at something that kind of smooths itself out with the variance and volatility over the course of a game. And now you're coming into a sport where you're going to be betting on guys who are maybe getting three, four, five plate appearances in a game. And so your micro, your game to game, day to day, is going to have a lot more swings. And the way you overcome that is the 162 games of baseball that you're going to have to play over the course of the season for each team. That's why everybody says it's a grind. You got to be at it every day. Because, like you said, Derek, volume is your friend here. And the way that we get volume in baseball is you got to be playing every game and every day like that. Now, last year, we did have a pretty good edge in hitter strikeouts, Derek. We talked about it plenty on the show, on the Bad X show that we were doing. Do you think the books caught up to it, or is it a well we're going back to this season here?
I'm hoping we're going to be able to go back to it. Yeah, batter strikeouts were super profitable last
Mhm.
year, especially for the first half of the year, right up until just about every book decided we don't want to keep getting creamed by
Yeah.
the Bat X subscribers. We're just going to stop offering them entirely. And several books did that. By the end of the year, I think they came back at a couple books, but the odds didn't look quite as nice as they did before. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on it.
Mhm.
I still think there's, in certain situations, definitely value to exploit in those. And if you watch the show, you know one of the angles that we really tend to approach those bets with a lot. Um, but yeah, it's the same as anything else. Like you just have to play what the market gives you. 4 years ago, stolen base props were just a gold mine, and books adjusted. And so you just every year you try to find, kind of where the inefficiencies are and where you can poke holes.
Now, if you had to make a forecast, if you had to prognosticate here, what kind of things do you think we'll be talking about a lot on the weekly show this year? It's a tough
I
question.
it is a tough question because you really don't know until you start
Hmm.
seeing the lines. I mean, I'd like to think that we're going to be talking about batter strikeouts, or at the very least, kind of the angle that we were attacking them with, but maybe in a different market this year. Because, you know, we said it before with pitchers, like volume matters. And so some of the softer lines for hitter volume, the way we approach it was batter strikeouts last year, but maybe there'll be, a different market for batters where we can approach it the same way and the books, their lines are softer and they've caught up now because of on the batter strikeout side.
Okay, so what are some of the ways that you approach the off season when it comes to the Bat X? Because Derek, we know you do the Blitz NFL projections in most of this off season. So where do you find the time to think about the year ahead? And what does your thought process look like in trying to come up with new angles or new ideas of how to squeeze some more value out of MLB props?
Yeah, really, I find time wherever I can. I'm kind of, obviously doing this full time, spending as much time as I possibly can on this. And we are lucky that we get a little bit of a slowdown in football season once the playoffs start. January, February, definitely is easier to commit a lot of time to getting ready for baseball. But even before that, I'm thinking about it. The season before, obviously, I've paid attention the whole year, and so I've seen kind of how the projections are performing. I've seen maybe what kind of new data is available. I'm constantly coming up with ideas of, okay, how can I make this better? What can I add? What can I improve? What can I just tweak just to make it a little bit better? Um, and so yeah, there's always stuff to do. I have a list a mile long of things that I'd like to add to the system. It's just a matter of finding that time, like you said, but there's always time to add some stuff.
Derek, one of the funniest quirks to me about baseball is that it's such a like stats driven sport. So many numbers, so much data, and we don't play in uniform ballparks. It's like if the NFL had some fields that were 90 yards long instead of 100. Uh, this year, we have an extra special wrinkle here because we've got both the A's and the Rays playing in minor league ballparks. How is that going to change things as far as what you're looking to attack early in the season? Are you looking to attack props in these smaller ballparks, or are you staying off to accrue more data for the bat before you really start attacking A's and Rays stuff?
Yeah, so there's a couple parts of that. So first, we'll just talk about how I'm approaching it from a projection
Yeah.
standpoint, which is that these are new parks. They are used in the minor leagues, but you can't really use minor league park factors. It's not apples to apples at all. And so basically, what I do for new ballparks is I look at the things that we know for sure about a ballpark and that we can measure the impact of. So things like fence distances, fence heights, elevation, foul ground, like whatever kind of physical characteristics of the park we have lots and lots of data on parks historically, and we can see, okay, when the fence is this far back, it tends to have this impact on home runs and this impact on doubles and whatever it may be. So for the new parks, that's what I've done to come up with just a baseline estimate to start with. Um, Good news about baseball is that games are played outdoors, and so weather matters too. And the impact of weather in one city is no different than the impact of weather in another city for the most part. Uh, you know, 85 degrees is going to have the same impact on the density of the air in Chicago as it will in Sacramento. Like it's something that we know. So we can add that on top of our park factors to get an even better sense of the run environment. Um, as far as what I'm going to do with these parks to start the year, I'm certainly going to be paying close attention to what kind of lines we're seeing in these parks and how the sports books are treating them, because I do think my approach is better than just following the public narrative. And I think it's better than knowing nothing about the parks. I think it's better than assuming they're going to play like they did in AAA, which is just not an accurate representation. Um, so yeah, if they're exploitable, I'm definitely going to try to exploit them. I'm not going to go too heavy right away though, because park factors are very, very noisy. There are so many things that we don't know about a ballpark. I told you I'm basing these park factors on the things that we do know for sure, but there are so many things that we don't know. What the groundskeeping is like, the height of the pitcher's mound can change, the way they mud the balls, the way the wind can interact with different parts of the ballpark and create, jet streams or whatever. There's just so much we don't know. And so I'm certainly not like, okay, I came up with this number and this is definitely how it's going to play. Like, I really don't know. Um, so I don't want to overcommit to what is essentially one angle. If it's all of a sudden the bat is showing a whole bunch of unders or a whole bunch of overs every time a game is in this park, well, it's not like it's a separate, it's not like it's independent angles essentially every time. It's all one thing. It's saying, okay, well, the park factor, the bat thinks the park factor is this, Vegas thinks it's this. It's always going to project under. You don't want to wind up putting, 5% of your bankroll or whatever into that one angle over the course of a couple months. If the angle could be wrong. So you kind of need to balance that and understand, I think, when you're placing certain bets, like, okay, like we know on a daily level bets that are correlated, like, okay, if you're going to bet on, you know, Garrett Cole to have a good game today, if you bet his strikeout over and his outs over and whatever, like there's a correlation between those two. And so some people are kind of aware of like, okay, if I'm betting this, maybe I don't put a full unit on both because it's a very similar bet. But when the bets are spaced out over the course of several days or weeks or months, people don't think of that correlation being there, but it's exactly the same. If the angle is, okay, Garrett Cole is going to pitch well today for the strikeouts and the walks, that's the same angle. If the angle is, okay, I think that this ballpark is more pitcher friendly than the books do, well, that's the same today, tomorrow, the next day, all the way through April. So you want to think about that type of correlation too, I think, when you're placing your bets and figuring out how much risk and volatility you want to take on.
Now, I know this is a great Jackism for baseball here, but I'm going to steal it from you, Jack. Um, you like to say baseball season separated into kind of three different mini seasons. You've got that early season where the weather isn't uniform around the country yet. You've still got players coming up, roster changes, things like that. Then you've got the middle of the year that's kind of, those summer doldrums. The weather's uniform around the country, rosters, players are coming up, but for the most part, you know who's there, you know who's not. And then you have the late season fall playoff push, everything that goes along with that, and teams that are maybe not trying as hard at that point and checked out. When it comes to these kind of three mini seasons, do you find yourself changing your approach, or maybe there are certain props that you find more edges on early, certain props that show up later? How does your approach change throughout the season here when you're attacking stuff?
From a macro level, I mean, maybe not really. I may be a little more conservative early in the season, like the first week or so, because we don't know what teams' lineups are going to look like yet. We don't know, kind of what pitchers' leashes are going to be. Like, how deep are they going to allow these guys to go in the game? Sometimes we don't even have accurate spring training pitch counts to know how built up they are for opening day. Um, and so I might be a little more wary in certain situations very early on than I would be later in the year. Um, but yeah, it's really just kind of at all times thinking about what kind of data we have to make our projection based on, the quality of the data, how much reliability we have on the data at that point, and just kind of assessing from there. So I know that's not a great answer, but it's kind of just approach everything on its own.
I look, I'm a recovering MLB bettor. When I was betting really into it 10, 15 years ago, even, I found that one of the early season angles I could always rely on was that pitchers were better than batters early in the season. And in the past 5 years, I've really seen that go out of the market. And my theory as to why is the game's managed differently now than it was 10, 15 years ago. Pitchers don't get a chance to be dominant. They get stretched out for the first 2 months of the year when I always felt pitchers were already stretched out. They have a longer spring training. They have probably a lot more reps in spring training than the batters do. So I'm curious if you would go along with that theory as to it used to be pitchers were stronger than batters early in the season, and then batters were stronger than pitchers due to fatigue late in the season. Have you seen that kind of normalize now where the game's managed in a way that it's just not an effect anymore?
Yeah, I definitely think there are some factors that kind of mitigate that now. There is some evidence that pitchers are, quote unquote, like up to speed, faster than batters are. They're ready to go out of the gate. Plus, early in the season, we have weather that's more conducive to pitching, which certainly helps. By the time we get to the middle of the year, it's hotter, it's more hitting weather. But yeah, pitchers are being managed differently than they were 5, 10, 15, certainly 20 years ago. uh, the first few starts that a pitcher makes, he might not be able to go as deep into the game or anywhere near as deep into the game as he will once it comes to, June, July. And so we do want to account for that. It does make betting pitcher overs, even if we think pitchers are going to be more effective on a rate basis, that kind of gets mitigated by, okay, well, he might be good on a rate basis here, but he might only throw 80 pitches. And so, that definitely you have to consider both sides of it.
Now, Derek, of course, if people want to check you out, they can find you on Twitter at Derek Carty. They can find all of your work over at EVAnalytics. And if they want to pick up a Bat X subscription, we've got a link in the description of this video/podcast that they can go and follow along for. But if you're listening to this before opening day, you and I are going to be live on the YouTube channel one more time. The Bat Show is going to be there at 1 p.m. Eastern time on opening day. So you can catch a bunch of the games before they tip off, before they tip off. I'm still in NBA mode here. But before first pitch is thrown, come talk some props with us and join us along for the ride for the full season if you haven't before. It's always a great time, and then we tail it right into the NFL season too. A fun time of year is ahead for us in the summer months here. But anything else that you want to plug before we get out of here?
No, I mean, the
I think
Bat
I covered
X.
the bases there.
Yeah, we covered the bases. The
Yeah.
Bat X is good. You should probably
Mhm.
be using it for sports betting. I think people should also know we have a dedicated Discord channel for
Mhm.
people who use it, and I am extremely accessible. If you ever have any questions about it before or after you purchase, feel free to let me know. I'm always happy to help and kind of guide people to, be as successful as they can with it.
Yeah, they really can find you anywhere. You even have your own channel in our Discord as well. Again, link in the description. You can join that if you're not already a member. And you're answering questions in our Discord all the time. Very excited for the summer season coming up here. We've got a couple more days to wait, but I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure everybody else is too. So for now, that is going to do it for us. One more time, thank you guys so much for being here with us. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, hit that 5-star rating, give us a review. It really does help us out. But for now, we'll catch you next episode, and let's cash some tickets on this baseball season.